On the very last show of the AI business podcast, Max, can you not choose this time to light a cigarette?
I thought that was pretty epic. That was well timed.
Okay, that's well timed. I enjoyed that. So you might be wondering why it is the last episode, and we'll tell you all about it later. But in this episode, as always, we're gonna talk about AI and what it means to us specifically, personally, intimately. What does that mean? Because we've been all kind of, whether we like it or not, we've been kind of entangled in this AI chaos or goodness, depends on how you see it, for the last year and a half. So it's kind of been fun. So it's only fair that we digest it a little bit and talk about where do we go from here. Also, that's also a personal question too. Where do we, all of us, go from here? So, it's sad that we didn't make it to 40. This is 38.
It's an even number.
Quite a decent account for admittedly an unsponsorable podcast. So thank you for listening.
Not bad. I mean, we did have two sponsors, I think, at some point, but I think they move on very quickly, seeing their return on the money. They're like, why did we do this? Here's what it is. For the very last time, I guess, at least on this podcast, I get to ask you, how's everybody doing and how's the weather over there? And
we're bringing back an old strain of cow with 60-year-old semen as a nation and naming it after our prime minister.
And also, we've learned we can grow concrete.
We can grow concrete, apparently.
Oh, scurvy's a thing again.
And scurvy's not a thing.
Our populace have just discovered that our politicians are deeply corrupt, and it's very fascinating to see the shock, the genuine shock some people have at this incredible revelation.
And also they're being rewarded for it and having a pat on the back. So basically nothing is happening to these bastards, which obviously makes some people angry.
So it's basically like Joe Manchin, but like all of them.
But listen, for the American listeners, we're getting a little hopeful because it's all about bridges. $10 billion coming up to New York City. Probably not going to change anything. New York City subway. So, we'll see. That's me trying to keep this, hopeful. I'm trying to be the positive,
American.
New world energy.
And then meanwhile, 10 former government officials have been indicted for potential crimes against the state.
And nobody's gonna show up to that, so kudos to them for.
Cue the music.
I better see some new actual punishment. By the way, anyway, so all right, so that's not chit chat. We cover a lot of news just right there. We're gonna talk about AI because for better or for worse, we've been doing this for 38 episodes, and we have 2 off seasons. One for personal reasons, one for just summer. So that's also personal because who wants to work in the summer? And here we are wrapping everything up. So. I know my background is certainly not reporter, certainly not AI, so I'm learning a lot, certainly just listening to Seb, breaking down stories. And my therapist knows all about it because he made me properly depressed, every Wednesday. But I'll source that back to him. But so we're going to talk about what it means to all of us. And Ben, I think, first of all, Seb joined in episode 2, right?
Yeah.
Right, so he's pretty much there the whole time. And Ben, you joined where?
23, 24. Remember what's the news with Wadecki?
That was good.
No, that was good times. Vote all 2 of them.
That was good times.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. And if you're wondering who these people are, I'm speaking to editor of DCD, Sebastian Is.
Hello.
Just totally forgot to introduce.
I mean, if you're joining the podcast now, sad news if this is your first episode.
But or maybe not.
Shut it down. There's nothing for you.
You don't have to endure us for much longer. And of course, the reporter of AI business and the man who watches over the night at the dark fort of Informa, Benjamin Wadecki.
Yes, hello. To quote my former boss, good time of day. I am the last bastion of the AI business. I will still be here next week. It will just be 4 versions of me saying on today's show.
The last show that guards the realm of men. Game of Thrones? Anybody? No, it's the reference passed. And of course, our global editor for 2 more weeks.
Yes.
Right? Maxime Smolax.
Hello there. Yes, unfortunately, this is my last podcast episode for AI Business, but we're going to be somewhere on the airwaves. Basically, Ben is going to have a podcast, I'm going to have a podcast, Sebastian is going to have a podcast, Tien is probably also going to have a podcast, who knows, we might have a podcast together. Watch this space.
Follow us on Twitter. We'll do a chat at the end, so where people, if you want to listen to a podcast that may or may not be happening unofficially in a few weeks,
you'll know where to find us.
Absolutely.
Right.
But
all right.
Today, it's time for revelations.
Just look in any dumpster.
Why are you leaving, Max? Did they finally search your work computer? Did they look at AI business traffic
history?
Numbers? What is it? Where are you going? What's happening?
I am leaving for Pastures New. I am assuming the responsibilities of senior editor at Data Center Knowledge, a site I long admired, a site that complements my personal strengths, you could say. I mean, I'm an infrastructure nerd. I like the smell of computer rooms. I like how the dust smells burning on the transformators. And I just like, UPS systems are sexy and liquid cooling is mwah. So, this is why I'm doing this. This is something I know, I love, and I love to be in touch with engineers and the people who make it all run. And also, there's lots of money and there's shitloads of money, and it pays better, and is on the face of it a more respectable occupation. Yeah. So
Tien Shifu, where are you going?
For 2 more days, I'm the senior video producer.
What are you going to produce in the 2 days?
In 2 days, this podcast actually, and I get to enjoy my weekend. I'll figure out what's coming, come next Monday. So let's get into our market.
Wait, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm also never worked in.
Yes, you are. You're fired. You're fired.
We're sorry to see you go.
You're no longer collecting.
I'm going I'm going somewhere as well.
Yeah.
I'm going home because my mum's going to pick me up and take me home.
Which
is even more of a lie because my mum's 100 miles away.
For those of you wondering, Ben is a proper adult.
She wasn't 100 miles away until you asked her to pick you up.
I'm actually in, for our listeners who don't know, I'm actually in the office. I know my audio for long-term listeners has been spotty because it's more inconsistent than the New England Patriots at the moment. So hopefully going forward, the budget can be reimbursed from Tien's massive salary to go into buying me a decent pair of headphones.
Yeah. Oh, it's like Informer's profit margin is going to double just in getting rid of Tien.
Yeah, for sure. That's not even a joke. And by the way, thanks for telling us you're in the office, Ben. Nobody asked for the last time I get to say that.
He's in one of those corporate coffins as well, where it's just like 2 by 2 feet.
Know,
so he's suffering for the cause.
There's good acoustics.
Barely. He can't even move.
Okay, marquee topic.
All right.
What's the topic?
I feel like you're all pushing back for the marquee topic. I already teased the topic. So the question is, why don't we start with Max? Because I think Max is, it's the soul, I guess, in some way. Maybe not the soul. That's a little too much.
Yeah.
I
don't want that as my soul.
You're just one of the hosts.
The acids in the stomach of.
Yeah. But hey, listen. Before we even conceived this project, there's months where Max and I would just go on calls and talk about ideas and stuff. And
it started with a beautiful meeting in New York 2 years
ago. So
with
a beautiful meeting in New York at the end of 2019, and we started talking, and we drank a little bit. Max gave me a hug, and I took in all of his BO. It's a little too strong for me, so I said, why don't we keep it podcast so we don't have to see
fully remote.
Yeah, it's all of the aroma. But listen, it's been so ever since then we spent months talking about this idea until at some point I say, hey, let's stop talking about that. Let's actually just do it and see what happens. And I didn't know that you were kind of just new about AI too. So you're writing AI. You have better understanding about AI than me, obviously. But a lot of things I was asking you, and you were like kind of struggle with answering. So it's kind of been fun just researching ourselves and finally get this project together. So why don't we start with you? What surprised you about AI, and what is your personal feeling about AI compared to yourself 15 months ago to where you are now? We'll start with you, and we'll run down the list.
It is actually 2.5 years. 2.5 years I've been sitting in this chair, not the specific chair, but in the editor's chair, and trying to steer the ship. And it's just like, when I joined, I walked into it like everybody else walks into AI, it's magic, like you're bright-eyed, it's a special workload, special infrastructure, nobody understands this. We need data scientists, there's not enough data scientists, it's all very high-techy. But what I grew to understand is AI is not that different. So at the end of the day, AI is just becoming just software, and I didn't want to believe in it. And that was an opinion when I just started. Somebody said this to me, and I just did not like the idea. I did not like the idea that all this magic, all this hoo-ha, at the end of the day, is just going to be as boring as the old SQL. But we're moving in this direction very, very quickly. So basically, this no-code, low-code thing that was started like seeing for the past year. No, seriously, everybody will work with AI because you already work with AI. Like for example, in Adobe Premiere, right, or in Photoshop. Like when you're using content autofill, and there's going to be more and more.
When I use the software
to
make you sound better, it's AI.
No software can do that.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's very limited. I'm seeing the limitations of AI every day. But go on.
But
go ahead.
There will be people who will break down the magic and the cleverness into bite-sized pieces that anybody can use, and it's just like it's already happening. And it's just like if like any programming language, you can already do AI. If you know a bit of SQL, you will be able to do AI. It's just like any other guy who deals with software will be able to do AI. Take advantage of this magic. Like it's already happening. So at the end of the day, AI is going to be everywhere. It's going to be a part of everything. We're going to build AI, we're going to use AI on a daily basis, and you can't stop this trend. And it's just like bias, algorithmic justice, it's just like it's already happening. People are selling the idea of hiring using AI as this beautiful thing, and people are buying into it, and people are sinking money into it, and it's basically the speed at which we still don't understand it. Explainable AI is still it's fairly new as a concept. Nobody knows how to do it, but we're rushed into it, and it's here. And at the end of the day, AI is just software now, and it will continue being software. It's not special. It's not magic. It's beautiful, interesting software that enables it enables your software to do the things that it wasn't able to do before. It's just more things. Are they human-like? Yes. Are we talking about super intelligence? Hey, no, not for many decades, I guess.
So to sum it up, AI is not magic.
Definitely not.
Okay, got it. Why don't we run down the gauntlet of experiencing covering AI? So Sebastian, thoughts, response to Maxime?
I mean, I think, regular listeners of the show know my negative views on the vast majority of companies in this space. And so I could talk for hours.
Or about the Earth.
I could talk for hours
mankind.
About how the vast majority of these companies are just like resellers or bullshit merchants and snake oil salesmen. But I knew that when I started writing about AI. What I think was more fascinating for me over the past 2 and a bit years I've been helping Max is this idea that we will write about cool new startups, we'll write about cool new hardware things, we'll write about interesting new approaches to AI, new technologies. And when you're in the weeds, it's very easy to think this is this rapidly, dynamically changing industry where there's tons of cool new companies and cool new ideas that are constantly revolutionizing the space. But when you take a step back, it's the same big guys are in control. And I think that's my big takeaway, is that even with all the hardware companies, NVIDIA has such a strong lockdown on AI with CUDA and Tensor cores. So that's on the processing side. And then on the actual where you do it, it's Amazon, it's Microsoft, it's Google. And there is just no future I see where that stranglehold doesn't change, especially on the cloud computing side. And so AI as we know it is always going to just essentially all the revenue that comes out of that is going to funnel to those guys.
To the same people that we know and love.
Yeah, it's going to the people we know and love. That's why they're all in the $1 trillion club, the cloud companies are. And that's why, NVIDIA has more than doubled in size. It's just this mass oligopoly of the top of the funnel AI people, and everyone at the bottom can come up with new cool ideas, but it doesn't matter. It will always be sucked into these black holes, these terrifying black holes that absorb everything and forever grow. And it's horrifying. And someone save me. Tien, your turn.
Well, my question to that is, Ben's gonna go next, but my question to that is, have you seen in your years of covering tech this happening to another industry? Because I would suspect that this cycle might have, maybe not on this scale, right? But it has to be. There's nothing new here, right? It's going to be new companies being swallowed up by bigger companies. Right?
It goes to Max's point. This is software, and then it goes to the old saying of software eats the world. And so you've got the software side of things, and that's being controlled by a select few companies. But then when we accept it's software, we go, okay, the software has to live and be processed somewhere, and that's when it comes into the hardware, which is the infrastructure side that I write about and Max is going to write about. And again, those are both sectors that are now being controlled by the same guys. So, if
but
you
it's
compare
new. It's the internet age. Like, see, it's unprecedented. I don't think
to
it's
have
like
this level of control by a few companies. We haven't had trillion-dollar companies before. Now we have multi-trillion-dollar companies. The railway barons, their power stopped at the end of the railway. This is a globe-spanning enterprise that it is just designed to keep on devouring and grow.
So basically, you want FDR to climb out of his grave and break him up.
Break them up. Separate Amazon from Amazon Web Services. Separate Facebook from its subsidiary.
Sorry, who?
Facebook. Oh, sorry, Meta. Meta from its Facebook.
Alphabet can go on all directions. Like, seriously.
Alphabet can just be smashed into tiny little pieces. I would go as far as separating Google's ad business from its search engine business, and put in proper regulations on this AI, because I think that's the other thing we can talk about in our coverage. Does anyone have any faith in regulators?
No, because they're a revolving door, because of the lobby and the kind of the fact that it's just like people just like people no longer want to fight monopolies for some reason. Like it's just like it's weirdly unpopular to be like, well, these guys are too big, which is like.
So a very recent story is Meredith Whittaker of Google AI, kind of left under a cloud of protest and is kind of persecuted by the company. Now works at the FTC. Biden as a whole has been more skeptical of tech companies and more open to a low level of FTC action. And I think rather than breakup, we'll see more blocking of further mergers, but it's kind of like stopping a shooter after he's first like unloaded 3 clips into a crowd and then being like, well, I've done my job because I told him to stop doing that.
So basically, NVIDIA shouldn't acquire ARM, is what you're saying.
NVIDIA should 100% not acquire ARM. And I actually think, thankfully, that will not happen.
Okay, so now that we've gone to the details, but hey, let's tip the balance a little bit to the positive side.
I feel like I need
now just when full Kylo Ren on.
I feel like I need to go and visit my therapist a day early.
Well, it's about time you schedule a therapist to talk about all of your problems. So why don't you bring us back to the light, Ray?
I did dress as a Palpatine. Spoilers. I'm the newest of the gang. I joined in March by way of Intellectual Property magazine.
Yeah, the Jedi Temple.
I mean, I am the youngest of the group as well. I'm only 25.
Yeah, it shows.
Rub it in.
I hate your youth and the fact that you'll outlive me.
Yeah,
but I'm also extremely small.
Probably not.
So
not the way he lived his life.
No, his severe diabetes. So the way I look at it is, I came in probably as the biggest layman of all. I'm still quite new in my journalism career, and I basically joined from an intellectual property title, which, to be honest, I've been to several of them. I barely knew anything about that, but the idea is, I've always said, if you enter into something and you're continually surrounded by it every day, you will pick up and you can eventually become an expert in it, so long as you surround yourself with it, which is what I like to think I've done here on AIB. When I first came in, I looked at AI as most people would, this kind of scary, they took our jobs kind of yokel view, that not really understanding it more from like it can be applied. I think the only really kind of interaction I got in with it was on the patent side of things, on inventorship and authorship, without going into that too much. But over the 9-10 months I've been here, I've learned that there is good and bad. I completely agree with some of the earlier comments, and actually from an earlier episode, I will never forget some wise words from our own Seb, who said that AI itself is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Whatever you teach it to do is what it'll do. And I fundamentally agree with that, and I think it's the perfect way to encapsulate it for anyone who thinks it's extremely grandiose. However, I will probably be the lighter of the four, in that I do see some good. I see a really bright future for this area when combined and applied correctly. I think that the recent event that we had, so we had a team out in Silicon Valley recently, and the focus on industrial, the focus on actual genuine practical use cases. One of the gentlemen from Unity spoke about it, Danny Langer, and I prefer that aspect of it, where there's actual practical beneficial uses to it that are tangible and you can see. While I appreciate Zuckerberg and to a later extent Jason from NVIDIA's big GTC Omniverse avatar display recently, while they're novel, interesting, and exciting in ways, something far more practical, in my view, is better applied and probably far more, it's more boring generally. But to me, it's more exciting because it can actually have more opportunities to change the world than just a AI avatar that looks like it's in a toy box.
This
It's
is why
exciting.
you're gonna do well in B2B journalism. This is what we do. It's fucking boring, but it's important.
But then at the same time, like for our listeners out there, it can be boring. There are times where I have to go through the full specs of the new NVIDIA Jetson AGX. It sounds boring. It might sound great, but do you know what? I actually wake up on a Monday morning and think, Christ, I'm a tech journo at 25. I actually really love what I do, despite working with Muppets and Max. No, I genuinely love it. And to our listeners out there, it is fun. We have a lot of fun here at AI Business, as you tell. 90% of our pod recording is just mucking around, But we like to think that we're different in the market in that we're fun, and you can actually listen to us while doing your shopping.
Okay, before you
Follow
sell
the
me on
dreams.
AI business.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll buy the stocks. Jeez.
All right, Ben, I'll buy your book.
My thing is, well, we can discuss the labor thing a little further, but I think that's fair. But I think there's always something that's I feel like there's always something that's properly affecting the labor market. Maybe not to this scale, but the other thing to me is AI. What I realized is AI is not one thing. I kept wanting to think that AI is just this one beautiful thing, but it's been AI in Google is different than AI in Uber, right? Every AI has their own version of things, or in
Uber's
Amazon
kills.
warehouse.
Yeah.
There's no such
Yeah.
Max
Yeah.
always Max. One of the
or
main
in
things
the-
that Max said to me was, "There's no such thing as AI, right, Max?
Yeah.
There's products, there's tools, there's systems. Solutions
Right,
is a
so-
marketing word. No,
Right. Okay. So I
I'm
do
a
agree
proud
with
dad
that.
right now.
That sounds like Max was a lot smarter outside of this podcast.
Yeah.
than he actually is. So I assume that's actually Max. But yeah, 100%. There are really good tools being applied in different levels, right? So a lot of people, like Sab was saying, like a lot of people would tag that onto something. I think our old live reading editor-in-chief, Ray LaMaitre, will be like, is it actually AI? Is it actually machine learning? You cannot. He will grill people over people just using that word. You can't, because it's really easy to add that onto. I don't think, to be fair, I don't think Ray knows much about AI. But for what he offers, he will really make sure people understand what machine learning actually means when people just use that word even in our sponsor interviews. I mean, he doesn't have the power to yell back at the client, but he always turn to us and say that's not actually machine learning.
What
so
a dude.
Sponsored interviews.
You can find him at
Right, so you-
Telecom TV. What?
yeah, he left at Joint Telecom TV. Yeah,
Oh, leaving
saying he's
guy.
gonna retire. Yeah, so. One analogy I have is like just to make it more modern and sci-fi-esque is it's from Dune. This character.
Whoa,
this
spoilers!
special wizard.
It's a
Do
much
you
more
remember that
modern reference than
wizard-
the Star Wars references and Game of
Oh, for
Thrones
sure.
references he's trying to be throwing in here.
And the wire reference, yeah. So the Kwisatz Haderach, who knows what it is?
Yeah.
Kwisatz Haderach. It's this.
Ear
Nobody read
cataracts.
Dune.
We've all read Dune. Max
Yeah.
has read Dune, like, what, how many times have you read
By the
Dune?
way,
Max?
I'm
two
gonna
or
start.
three.
I'm gonna start reading. I'm gonna start reading Foundation. Anyway, so this is the wizardry character where this is the world where basically there's no AI in Dune, right? So what in turns is human and machine are blending into this new creature, which a lot of people have, prophesized and predict that this will happen in 20 years from now. We'll all have some kind of chip in our brain and stuff. So this is kind of a human walking me robot where it doesn't offer anything particular in terms of critical thinking, but it's really good at processing information, giving you a prediction based on whatever is given. So that to me in a nutshell is what I see AI is. I don't see it for more than what it is, but I don't see it for less than what it is. Now this guy, this wizardry character, this wizardry tool can be deployed in many different ways. If bad guys got their hands on it, it can just calculate how to win war, how to deploy an army into a foreign land that's under dispute, right? Or under a proper boring Aragorn type of character, Lord of the Rings reference, the guy can just say, hey, how do I manage my people? How do I manage food? How do I separate?
So if Taiwan, a
boring
country,
stuff?
Was to use it, they could make a much more smart city and smart economy and deal with their droughts as a nation.
Right, and listen, and the drought is caused by
Climate
jamming
change.
all the chips and creating all the chips because the farmers don't have water because we have to cool down the chips.
Wait, did that happen?
So Taiwan plays a critical part. So my point is, I think there's different applications, and if Ben, what you're saying is the boring part, I think it's okay. I think we don't even think about the good things about AI anymore. Think about the good things about AI. Now you open an app and they kind of just know where you are and what you need. And in some way, when you open Uber, you used to have to type in your full address. Now it kind of just roughly know where you are. No, I mean, it's not amazing, but I'm just saying that's like maybe a bad example. But there are other ways AI is happening in our life that's, used to when you search a Google result, you get the things you don't actually want. Now it kind of just figure out the word. I mean, I'm terrible at spelling.
Still an awful search
engine. They're really good at predicting the actual word you're saying. They're actually kind of helping you in some very mundane way. So the more boring an AI task is, the better the better it works. The problem to me lies when people trying to make it something it's not, and trying to paint like a utopian picture of isn't that great? Like no, there's enough problem we have. Can we just solve the traffic problem in Manhattan? Can we just use AI machine learning to figure out what road to go where? And Google kind of does it, but not in really good. He's like, oh, if you go this route, you save 20 minutes, but you go that route, you save you like 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't even tell you a better job of managing the map. So what I'm saying is, bottom line is what I'm saying is, AI is still kind of amazing as long as we use it to solve actual physical problem and not using it to create multiple ones.
I mean, Max will probably back me up here as well as like a old B2B journalist as well. Of like, boring is where the good stuff is.
Right.
Yeah. The interesting, the headline sexy stuff is 90% bullshit, lies, PR spin that has gone out to a bunch of media people who are not tech experts or subject experts about the subject and kind of regurgitated it, and everyone either knows it or it's rubbish, so it's not actually that interesting. It just sounds sexy. Getting your weeds and your head deep in the boring stuff, it's a painful, horrible task often that makes you question your own sanity and breaks you, turning you into someone like me.
Sometimes you discover that Microsoft is slaughtering owls in a certain US
owls.
state.
If they're trying to build a data center and there's burrowing owls there and they don't give a shit, that's a fascinating story to track down.
So we talked about the boring. I wanna
so to follow that too. Since I mentioned the boring part, no, you did. But I remember at the beginning when we were kind of bouncing off stories just between me and Max, I was saying, Max, that this looks something amazing, and Max was like, yeah, but, and then every week I realize I read a little more stories. I realize, oh no, this is our people don't understand about AI. A lot of journalists don't know about AI, right? They just like, oh, that sounds like a fun tech. I don't know. People read, right? If you read a Deadline, right? Deadline just use really bad a screenwriting podcast to write news, so it's not original. It's just like regurgitating.
It's sensationalism. I mean, the rules have been long.
Sensationalism.
Yeah.
Remember we talk about Elon Musk, and which is like sometimes we're like amazed for like 5 minutes, and every time we talk about him, he seems a little less and less amazing. It that's the feeling of like AI being sensational. It's just like anybody who spent a little more time digging through the stories. I guess this talk about journalism too, where you just need to get through the weeds and actually see what the actual story is about. Oh, is he selling a company? Is he promoting something? Like what is underneath that? And I realized, the boring stuff is fine, but it just, unfortunately, the journalistic world, hasn't really caught up. I don't know if they caught up in any world in that sense. Hasn't really done a better job of actually explaining what they actually does.
If you find something in the coverage that you personally enjoy, you're more likely to create something that's more in-depth, well-researched, and thoroughly great. Like, Max and Seb nerd out on the hardware stuff. Like, whenever NVIDIA is announcing a new Jetson, Max jumps for joy, right? For me, like, I love the weird stuff. Shout out to Miso Robotics, like Flippy whatever you say about with regards to the automation of fast food restaurant roles. I love the idea that, hey, this robot makes chips. I love like the weird stories, and I find that no matter what you will always in this sector, because it's so diverse, you will find something you enjoy, whether it's the boring stuff, whether it's the weird stuff.
Is this a hiring pitch? Are we trying to hire someone?
No, I'm actually extremely emotional because this has been a great team and we've done some wonders together. We've talked about various incidents in a far off nation named Myanmar.
I did appreciate how much more AI was until like when I started
100%.
Where like it's been deployed in various different ways and all different parts.
But you find that outside of work as well, you're talking about it more. The joke with my dad is when I visited my dad a few times. Shout out to my dad, who's
Simon,
Simon, our longest
Honda worker,
former Honda worker. So Simon, who's also seen robotics come on the front line of manufacturing. I'm actually going to be working on a piece with him with regards to that at some point, so look out for that soon. But one thing I wanted to touch on is like you find outside of work you're talking about it more. And the joke with Simon is I go home and see him and I go, do you want to talk about robots? He just jokes because he laughs because he's like, you've become so ingrained with it that you struggle to, you realize that's AI, that could be machine learning based. Oh look, that's using computer vision. It's in every facet of what
I will
doing.
warn you, or more Max, he'll have to remember, it's like when you're at a party and you talk about AI, you can get some people interested. When you're at a party and you talk about data centers, people drift away.
Wait, I'm going to get invited to parties.
Oh yeah, the Christmas season starting, and it's just like the great unlocking season. We're gonna go to some PR parties.
Max, you said the summer was going to be the summer of love. Look what happened. Nothing.
Summer of nothing.
All right, so it does feel like it's kind of a complicated relationship with AI. So I think that's the fun thing. Where even for Seb, you have to admit there are things in AI that's kind of still fascinating.
Oh,
and
of course.
We couldn't help every once in a while we couldn't help but fantasizing what it would be like. Although you always bring us to the darkest part of the fantasy.
No, but like
to the dungeon.
if you're covering tech, if you're interested in tech, I would rather have this knowledge. Like I wouldn't be like, AI is this magical technology thing. Like nobody knows how it works, and I would rather know like it's just like no, it's natural language processing, it's computer vision. It breaks down into these elements, and these are the systems, and it's just like it really helps you understand how it all fits together. Because like otherwise you're gonna get blindsided. Otherwise you're not gonna understand what the hell is happening around you. Because like everything is gonna be driven by AI. A lot of it already is, and you just have to know. You have to know like why the world works a certain way. It's great.
If you want
also
to
depressing.
If you want to get in on the ground, AI currently at 5G and I'd say quantum is where AI is today. So if you want to get where we are, get into these markets. Keep following them. Quantum isn't gobbledygook.
All right, we're almost out of time, and I think it's very tight so far. I'm very impressed by the fact that how we kind of stay on topic most of the time, and we've teased it long enough. So why don't we start with where can people find us, and then talk about the potential, will they, won't they, future project that might be on the horizon. Where can people find you, Max? Or you can talk about where can people find future Max too.
Absolutely, yes. So in a couple of weeks you will find me in charge of data center knowledge, a website about IT infrastructure.
Are you going to be in charge?
Pretty much, yeah. I am in charge. Large and in charge. I have a couple of freelancers. like I have half a writer on the regular. We're gonna commission some more writers. It's gonna be great.
Vision.
I'm gonna jump straight into it. And basically, but the email stays the same. It's max.smolax@informa.com. So like pitch me there, and you can also still find me on Twitter, nominally on Instagram. I need to post something because people will think I'm dead.
No, people think you're really dead. Let me see what's your latest thing. No one cares. Yeah.
Wait, Max has Instagram. I didn't even know that.
You don't miss much.
It's not amazing.
It's M3TH0D Max.
Jesus.
Whatever that means.
Oh, I typed in Max Smolax and it's come up with a Russian guy who has his profile picture as William Hartnell, the first Doctor. I'm not gonna dox him.
That's like.
That's my people.
In case people wondering what you're missing like a dark supermarket, like a strip mall
Incredible.
at midnight.
That's
This is the
Max's home.
genius
This
of
is Tate
photography you're
Modern,
missing.
the best gallery in London.
Right. Yeah, I can guarantee you nobody ever take this photo of Tate Martin. I would say don't go to Victoria and Albert. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to go to that one. I was bored of my, out of my seats. Like, I don't know who told me that. And okay, so Ben, where can people find you?
So, unlike certain other individuals, I will always be found on
Traitors.
aibusiness.com for the main time. Your words, not mine. I'm also on Twitter at Ben Wadecki. I'm on LinkedIn. Same again. At the moment, I'm currently doing a focus section on agriculture, AI, and automation. Please check out my content. There is some really good stuff. We're working with some really awesome vendors, some startups, some big names. The next one we're looking at is Metaverse. So if you want to get in on that thing, hit me up.
Sebastian?
Well, you can find me on the Metaverse and on Twitter at Seb Moss. And you can also find me as the editor of the largest data center publication out there.
Not for
DCD
long.
Data Center
Guys,
Direct.
it's always about the penis size.
It's not in
It's
former
always-
PLC owned, so
It's not
goodbye.
on independent-media-ish.
Ish. Shout out to George.
It's got the
So
largest
what happened to that Google
editorial
article?
team.
You know what? I can't wait for you to crush Max in every possible way. And
Tien,
It's already
where
happened.
can we find you, Tien?
Yeah.
you can find me always, as always, at TIENCHIFU, which is my name, Tien Shifu, at Twitter and Instagram. So, and if you are curious and say, you know what, I want to connect with Tien on a deeper level, I have a website. It's just tienshifu.com. So TIENCHIFU.com.
He
You
posts
can find. I just post a blog actually about my recent trip to.
Recipes.
I don't post recipe.
Why
I
not?
don't use
Honestly,
recipe.
for those who don't follow Tien on Instagram,
He's always eating, so he must be
his
good at
food is
cooking.
amazing. Like, I am envious of Tien. I mean,
No,
I
he's
have
just
severe
good at
diabetes.
photography. It's terrible food.
Okay.
Just makes it
No,
look.
I think the food you generally taste better than you look. But yeah, over my wife's pregnancy, I've become quite a good chef when it comes to cooking meats properly. So, that's where you can find us.
And where are you going, Tien?
Not going anywhere. I'm sitting in my
Okay.
living room right now.
Uh-huh.
But well, all right. So for the next few days, the Friday will be my last day at Informa. It's been it's been a bittersweet journey. I love everybody I work with.
If all of you'd worked in the metaverse, though, then maybe there wouldn't be as many layers. You'd feel that you could connect.
Exactly.
Get your
on a
salary in
deeper level.
blockchain.
Connect with a K a little more.
Yeah.
For sure. No, so I'll be joining a fintech company, which
Boo.
I will share the name a little later.
Sell
but
out.
I will run their video team, creating a video portfolio for them.
Boring.
Have a very small team underneath that I've been excited to figure out what they want to do. So I haven't honestly it's been a too good an opportunity to pass up. And I honestly I do my best to maintain the relationship with everybody I like working with in Informa, and you guys are on the top of the list. So. Just it just feels like the right time to make the move, and especially travel are coming back. I'm not too looking forward to travel without my family, and this job allowed me to travel to. I think I traveled to altogether 35, 36 countries in the world,
And you make that sound like a bad thing. You get to see the inside of
And
every
get away from
conference
the family.
center in the world.
And you abandon all of
No.
that for a woman and a
no,
child?
I enjoy
Crazy.
that. I enjoy that, but when you travel and at this point I just want to. But when you have to go to Denver 3 times a year and Vegas twice a year, and
Your company's
Okay.
in
Silicon Valley
Colorado.
three times a
You're having to go to Aspen every other week.
So speaking of families, this little podcast family, like Max said at the beginning, he's going to have Data Center Knowledge podcast. Next year, I'm launching the DCD podcast.
forcing the segue on
Ben's
us.
still
How dare
doing
you.
the AI business podcast. in
Somehow,
some
yeah.
form.
Are you?
We're gonna-
though?
gonna-
Are
It
you?
yeah,
will-
no,
it will take
we
a
are-
slumber,
Leave my
I'm
name
sure.
out of it.
Look, we're gonna so for listeners out there, we're gonna be continuing with this. It might be different. There might be different people. I will sadly still be here with my terrible inconsistent audio, mainly because it's the only way my dad actually listens to me. So we will still be here. It will be a different format slightly, but yeah, there'll be more
the
news on that in the
family,
future.
more
But it
importantly,
won't be as good.
These are the
No, of
siblings
course not.
all going off. Family, what's happening? Tien, tell us.
Vin
tell us.
Diesel. From,
Yeah, I'm
So
Vin Dieseling it.
the family stays the same. This is we trying to sing "Come Together."
Yeah.
I don't know what year that song came out. This is Paul McCartney trying to convince everybody, but Ringo is already gone. who's
I
the
wrote a
podcast
song.
Ringo?
I made a podcast.
Max has Ringo face.
I want to see the movie. George Harrison's
Ringo
already
is
passed
the,
away.
is the luckiest man in
I
Hollywood.
think Max is the George Harrison of
Because he's dead.
Because he's-
he's likely to be sick. No,
Then
come on, that's
you're the
terrible.
John Lennon, Tien, surely.
No, I'm not but he's also
No,
dead.
but
You're
he's Paul
leaving-
McCartney because he's the wealthy one.
Oh yeah, you're the
I'll be
world.
the-
Seb's John Lennon because he's the one that's
So-
weird and goes nuts.
No, he's
Instead
gonna
of,
get murdered.
Instead of
Yeah,
Yoko, it's
Yeah,
fossils.
you do look like you were sacrificed. You actually look like John Lennon a little bit. Now that
See,
you
there
said
we
it. that facial hair, gosh. All right, so we are going to say together, trying to at least, that we're going to launch a new podcast that's on the horizon,
Independent.
that's still in the making.
No, we're not going to share the name, but it's not just tech focused. We're talking a lot of different topics because our listeners know we love to ramble. Our rambles are great, often off topic. So this time we're going to allow ourselves to go off topic completely. We're not solely talking about tech. We're talking about anything, everything, be it Trump associates being indicted with subpoenas or insert other crime here.
Nothing is sacred.
Which has lost all of Long Island just now.
And all of Montauk.
Yeah, Montauk.
But the idea is, we all have this. As we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, that we love the boring and we're head deep in this details. It's what does that knowledge of being deep in this niche give us of the wider world? So we won't just be talking about Trump indictments by reading CNN.
Oh.
It's what does our perspective of this inform us of the wider shifts that are going on in the world and the wider scams and chaos and genocides and murders that are all stemming from what we're seeing at this very granular, boring level.
And I usually
you're a
hidden
lawyer-
in a PDF somewhere.
Yeah,
And if you're a lawyer and you'd like to get in touch to be our legal team, contact
bono.
us at Tien Shifu on Instagram.
but so basically, follow one of us on social media at the very
We'll
least,
follow all of us. Follow all of us
yeah.
on social media,
and then
we're gonna
we'll make
be
an announcement.
tweeting a lot more and stuff. But
In
it's
due
what
course.
what's Seb is saying. It's like, but basically what we're doing, but maybe on a more meta level. We just like try to look at things from a slightly larger perspective, right? We're still looking at tech, still looking at new things, the next big things, the fun things, but with a slightly different lens and maybe a little more freedom, and maybe hopefully it's more concise in terms of runtime too. This is
Maybe-
something we're all trying to be good at. We don't want to bore you.
Maybe a little more dumb.
Much more unhinged. Definitely 18 plus.
Unhinged,
There
no
might be
question.
some nipple displayed.
Joe Rogan, watch this space.
Joe
Except
Rogan,
we
get
believe in
vaccinated,
except we
please.
believe in we're all vaccinated.